Hiking the Narrows in Zion National Park is one of those big bucket list adventures that you're probably itching to cross off your list. So let's talk about 6 tips that you'll want to know before you hike the Narrows. My name is Ash. I'm a former park ranger and the founder of Dirt in My Shoes, and I live in Utah. You can find me in Zion at least a few times a year, most of the time. So I love this national park, and I especially love the Narrows. It is one of those adventures that just feels so cool, and it's massive, and you're surrounded by these giant red cliffs. You're hiking through the river, which just adds an extra dose of adventure. And it is such a fun thing to do during your time in this park. So today I wanted to share my 6 tips for hiking the Narrows so that you can come prepared with things that you'll want to know before you do this hike. Tip number 1, don't plan your trip for April or May. So if you are hoping to hike the Narrows, then you will want to avoid the months of April and May and even into early June, because most years the Narrows route is closed because you're hiking through the river and there has to be a certain water level to hike this route safely. And during the spring, especially during April, May, and early June, often that water level is too high and they just close the route down. So if you really have your heart set on hiking the Narrows while you're in Zion, then don't plan your trip during those spring months. My favorite time to hike the Narrows is during the fall when the water levels are lower and it's still warm outside, but it makes for a much more manageable hike, and the route typically is not closed. Speaking of water levels, tip number 2 is that you will need to check the water levels before you go. You're going to learn way more about water levels than you probably want to know, but I want to walk you through this because it is such an important part of hiking the Narrows. I have a full article on Dirt in My Shoes about hiking the Narrows, and there's a large section about the water levels here that will walk you through it, but I'm also going to talk you through it right now. So I want to show you, this is me hiking the Narrows. I backpacked the whole route a couple of falls ago, and it was really, really cool, but the water does get quite deep in some places. And so what you want to keep in mind is, let's scroll down here. So what we're doing is we're looking at the CFS levels, and that is like the flow per second. That's how much water is in the river. So if the levels are 0 to 49, then that is a really nice, relaxing hike through the water. Especially if you have little kids, you'll want to try to aim for a time when the water levels are that low. It really does make a big difference. From 50 to 99, then you will be able to feel the river current kind of pushing your feet as you're hiking. It will be harder to hike up against the current as you go, but it's doable. And average height adults, it's about waist deep water, only in a few places. It's not the whole time. Most of the time, it will just be covering your feet. There's not that much water, but sometimes you will hit some deeper pools. If it's 100 to 149, this hike is actually really challenging. You are fighting against a very strong current. It's slippery under there, and so it's harder to keep your balance, especially as the current is trying to push you. The water levels are a lot higher, and so it can get up to chest deep water in some areas. And so if you are hiking when it's 100 to 149, do expect a quite challenging hike. For the Narrows, if it's 150 or higher, then they do close down the bottom up route, which is the main route that people take. So if it's 150 or higher, then you will not be able to hike from the Temple of Sinawava up into the Narrows. Okay, so to check these water levels, you go to the USGS site for the North Fork Virgin River. And you'll see here they have a graph of what the water levels are, and it is going down. The Narrows is currently closed right now because the CFS is really high. But what you'll want to look at when you come down here is you'll want to make sure that the cubic feet per second is what's chosen on this graph, so you're getting the right information. Okay, and then you'll come back up here and then you can see what that currently is right now. So I'm gonna go to the very end of the graph, make sure that this is at the very end, that's the most current information, and it says 176, and that's your CFS number. So for most average people, checking this is gonna feel really weird. It's not something that most people do, but for the Narrows, you will wanna know how to check this, and you'll want to watch it because 176 is still too high, but you can see a week ago it was up over 300, and so it is going down. The Narrows probably will open within the next week or week and a half at this point in time, but that's what you can see. So, and you can also see down here the latest value. That's going to tell you what it is right this second, but that's the information that you'll need. So be sure to check those water levels before you go. That is really important. You don't want to get up there, rent the gear, be all ready to go just to have the water levels be too high for the ability level of your group. Tip number 3, check for flash flooding before you go. I cannot stress this one enough. If you're not used to hiking in the desert and you're not used to this climate, then you might not be familiar with flash flooding. And basically what flash flooding is that a lot of rain comes down in a short amount of time, and in the desert it doesn't soak into the ground, but it needs somewhere to go. And so this water accumulates and goes down into some of these canyons, and the water levels can rise really fast. It can move through really fast and really powerfully, and it can be deadly. And so for the Narrows, it is critical that you make sure that you are hiking this on a day that flash flooding is not expected. So I want to show you where to go to check this because it is crucial. They will also have information for you at the visitor center, so you'll want to check in there as well. But here is the website that you want to check out. So this website is weather.gov/slc/flashflood. And what it does is it takes you to this graph that will show you if a flash flood is expected or not. And so you can specifically look at Zion National Park. For today, nothing's expected, and so you should be good to get in there and hike without running into any problems. The crazy thing about flash floods is it doesn't have to be raining in the area you're at for a flash flooding to occur there. It can rain further out, and all that water still comes through at some point. So just because it's not raining in Zion doesn't mean that there is not a flash flood warning. So keep that in mind. You'll see down in here that there are different ratings that you'll want to see. So flash flooding could be possible, probable, or expected. Typically, they will close it down if there is a flash flood warning that is just too unsafe for the Narrows. But sometimes the rangers don't get to it in time, and sometimes you start hiking and then it changes and things like that. And so you do want to keep track of this on your own as well. If it's in the probable or the expected, I absolutely would not hike the Narrows that day. Tip number 4, start early or backpack the route if you can. Everybody, and I mean everybody, tries to hike the Narrows, and so this trail gets really busy. The earlier in the morning you can start and get up there, the less busy it will be as you're going through those really epic and beautiful parts of the trail. And so if you can get up there early, you won't be sorry. Also, later in the evening, as long as you have enough daylight, that can be a really nice time as well. The other reason that I like to be out in the Narrows early is because during the summer especially, big monsoon storms will come through in the afternoons. And that's when you can run into those flash flooding problems. And so I typically just like to be out there early before those monsoons run through, just to be on the extra safe side. I mentioned that you might want to backpack, and a lot of people don't know that you can backpack the Narrows. There are some campsites back in there. If you are doing that route, then you do need permits, so keep that in mind. But it is a really nice way to get away from all the crowded areas of the Narrows and to get back in there and spend a little more time. So on this post on Dirt in My Shoes that I have for hiking the Narrows, which I will link below this video, you'll see here's the route. And this is the route most people take, is they start at the Temple of Sinawava and go up, and then you can go up as far as Big Springs, which is 5 miles up. If you're doing it this way, then you do have to turn around here and go back down. If you have the extra permit, then you can start up higher and come down this way. And that's a really nice way to do it. You can see on this map, there's a 12 with a little tent. That's one of the backcountry campsites. So that's another option if you're looking for a little bit more solitude. I have done it this way and it is phenomenal. So I highly recommend it if you can. If not though, try to get a nice early start to avoid the crowds and to avoid the monsoons. Tip number 5, rent the right gear. Renting gear for the Narrows, I think, makes or breaks the experience, because most people don't just have the right gear on hand for hiking up rivers. But what you'll need at the very bare minimum is a good pair of closed-toed water shoes and a really thick hiking stick. You will not want to hike this without those things, because it just will make your hike much less enjoyable if you don't have the right gear. In an effort to save money, a lot of people don't bring this gear, but I think for this once-in-a-lifetime hike that it really is important to set yourself up well to have a good, safe time while you're doing it. And so it's going to depend on the season. If you're hiking in the summer, you can hike in shorts and really quick dry clothing, but you'll still want those closed-toed shoes. That's really important because the boulders under the river move around a lot. They're really slippery. And so if you're in open-toed sandals, it's really easy to injure yourself. Those boulders, again, can smash your toes really easily. And I just don't recommend trying to do this in something other than closed-toed shoes. The other thing is, if you bring your own shoes, you run the risk of getting blisters, because hiking for miles in wet shoes can be really uncomfortable. And so if you rent the shoes, you can do this in Springdale or just right outside of the park. But by renting those shoes, you also get special neoprene socks. And I love doing it this way. I don't get blisters with their shoe rentals, and my feet are protected. The other thing you'll notice is that you will want a big, hefty hiking stick for this. Those regular hiking poles that you're used to seeing out on the trails or used to using will not work for the Narrows. They'll snap, they'll get stuck down in the boulders, and it's just really easy to break those. They don't have enough strength to hold up your body while you're trying to hike through a river. So you will want those big, thick wooden hiking sticks, at least one per person, because it really keeps you safe and balanced and makes it so much more enjoyable as you're working your way through the river. If you're visiting during the off season and you're wanting to hike the Narrows, then you may need some additional gear. You might want to rent a dry suit or some dry pants, because the water does get really cold. When I hiked it in November, there was ice in the river, but the dry suit kept me really nice and warm. And so having the right gear makes just a huge difference on this hike. And my final tip for hiking the Zion Narrows, tip number 6, is bring all of the water that you need for drinking with you. So there's actually toxic cyanobacteria in this river, and it is not something that you can filter out with a water filter. And this can be very deadly if you drink it. And so do not drink the river water, even if you bring a filter. It's not safe to do so. What you'll want to do is make sure that you're packing all the water that you need to get up and through the Narrows for the day. If you do happen to go all the way up to Big Springs, so again, that's like a 10-mile round trip hike. It's really long. It will take you all day to get up there and back. But if you make it to Big Springs, then you can filter the water out of the spring, because that's not actually the river water. So that's really the only place that you're going to be able to drink water along the trail. And so you'll want to bring everything that you need for the day, including as much water as you possibly can. Okay, you're all set. These tips will help so much with your enjoyment of the Narrows. If you need extra help planning your Narrows trip and you're looking for route options, you have other questions about the route and what you'll see and what you should bring, then go to dirtandmyshoes.com and I have a full article that will just spell it all out for you. But I hope that you have a great time in the Narrows.